one of the things that I've learned a long, long time ago, and that is there must be conflict, and I'm talking about true conflict. You have to go through some type of a conflict of some sort in order to have true growth.
Hello, and welcome to Elevate Leadership Podcast, produced by South Carolina State University's Public Service and Agriculture program. I'm your host, Elizabeth Mosley Hawkins. If you are new to Elevate Leadership Podcast or you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for joining us. We're so excited that you're here and that you took some time to learn a little bit about ways in which you can elevate your career. We're so excited to be able to bring leaders from various industries who are influential and innovative and can provide some insightful tips on helping you to have a transformative career. So today we're going to jump into the show. I am so excited that we have probably one of the most influential leaders or producer of leaders in the state of South Carolina, and that is none other than Helen Munnerlyn. Helen has been the executive director for Leadership South Carolina for 21 years, she told me. She's produced over more than 1,000 leaders, and 80% of those leaders serve in the South Carolina General Assembly. You can find them in school boards, nonprofits. I myself am a 2014 Leadership South Carolina graduate. Helen is also a graduate of Leadership South Carolina. Helen has served several years as the communications director for the South Carolina Department of Commerce under several governors in the state of South Carolina. So I am not going to continue on because she has amassed so many accolades. Helen, thank you so much for joining Elevate Leadership Podcast.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Now, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine. You know, it's really funny. I would rather promote others than getting in front. I mean, I have to speak and do things like that, but I think, we all have a place, and I've always thought my place was to say, look at somebody and say, you've got a lot going for you. Yeah. Let's figure out what we can do.
Awesome. So
that you can do what you want to do.
Yeah.
And that to me, I think that's my value. So I think that's probably why I've stayed with Leadership South Carolina, and really for most of my other jobs is because you go, what is it that I can do, and how can I help others?
Right, right. And so you've helped over 1,000.
That's a lot of people, isn't it?
People.
Yeah, it's pretty funny, but you get about 55 people in a class.
Okay.
And then the next thing you know, there you go. It just keeps going and going and going. And when you look at the number of presenters and people like that to come, and a lot of the people that I get to speak I've known them for years, or I come in contact with them and see, as servant leaders, they come to talk to Leadership South Carolina. So they're over, I think on an average year we see over 200 different people that come and speak and get in front of the classes because they have something important to say, or something important to tell them, or someplace to show them.
Now, before we tell us, what is Leadership South Carolina for those who might not know what Leadership South Carolina is?
Yeah, Leadership South Carolina is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization. We've been around since 1979, and our job at the beginning, when it was created by Dick Riley, was to solve a problem. At the time, in 1979, the state was a board and commission state. And so every single commission, like aeronautics, movies and all these different things, DSS and DHEC and all these different organizations, all these state agencies had their own separate board.
Okay.
Their boards were often had different people from either 15 to 25 people, and a lot of them had to be appointed either through congressional districts or some other kind of district.
Okay.
It was just a hodgepodge. But the fact was is that the governor had to find and appoint all these different people
Oh, wow.
for their different boards and commissions. And they all had different timing and how many years and what kind of experience. And it became kind of an issue.
Okay.
So as an educator, Dick Riley eventually became the Secretary of Education.
Right.
He said, let's set up something so that we can train the people and they can understand what's going on. Then I will have a whole group of people that I can select from who are going to be qualified, because that was the problem.
Okay.
So that's why Leadership South Carolina was created, and we have continued since that time. So from '79 on, we've been able to hold our own and adjust different things, because now South Carolina is not a board and commission,
Right.
it's a cabinet agency. And so with that, there are a number of different organizations that sit at the table, and they are appointed, but they have boards that are appointed or they do other things to assist that actual commission or agency. So that's how that works, and we get about 55 people a year. They either apply or they are nominated, but they have an application that they go through. LeadershipSC.com. You can go to it on the website. Please apply, because you can self-apply if you would like.
Okay.
We held our legislative day yesterday.
Yes.
And as a result of that, we currently have 27 members of the General Assembly who are graduates.
Wow.
In right now. We've had about 35 people
Yeah.
from the General Assembly that have gone, but then they've cycled out or retired or whatever from the General Assembly. But having 27 members right there, in 15 in the House, 12 in the Senate, is a good thing for us.
Absolutely.
I mean, because what we're doing is we're trying to show them that there's an awful lot going on that they're not aware of.
Yes.
So that's one of the things.
And I think that's what I appreciated most about leadership was our visits across the state, because you can just become so ingrained in your particular community. And so going to the upstate or PD region or low country, and sometimes you get to see the vast differences.
It's a big difference. And the other thing that I forgot to mention is, so we pull these people from all over. The program itself has, we conduct 3-day sessions that are pretty much topically driven throughout the state. So the same people go to different locations.
Right.
And that's so important.
Yes.
One of the things you asked earlier, like how have we changed and how has the organization evolved? One of the ways that we did that was I started, when I looked at everything and did kind of a review, I said, now, tell me why we're going to these hotels. Tell me why. Well, so-and-so speaker likes to do that. I went, okay, all righty. So, I kept an open mind first couple of months, and after that, I went, we ain't doing this. And the reason is, anybody can go to what I call a beige room in a beige hotel and listen to a speaker. But if you get out, you get in your car, and you go somewhere, even if it's in your own city, in your own town, and you get to another place, for instance, one of the technical colleges, you go to the technical college, you're going to drive around, you're going to get on campus, you're going to see something you have not seen before.
Absolutely.
No matter what. I've always said that the best thing you can do is to try to please read all the logistics that we give you, because we give you turn-by-turn instructions, even if you have all of your telephone and Garmin's and everything else. There are places in South Carolina that it's not showing up.
Right.
So, be aware, you will get lost. But the other side of that is you will learn something and you will see something if you get lost that you have not seen before.
I love that.
And it's the collective memory that you have of what is South Carolina about. We go to the Charleston area, North Charleston, and Mount Pleasant, and then down to Camp St. Christopher for environment. And then we go up to, we change it around. We've been going up to Greenville to look at the schools up there.
Yes.
And then on 2 days, and then we go over to Anderson and then up to Pendleton so that we can see all different kinds of stuff. But again, it's going to places and seeing something they haven't seen before.
Right.
And we try, no matter where you go, to have some type of an alumni reception or some place that they can see other people from the area that are also leadership graduates. So
Yes.
that's what we're doing.
So what, coming into leadership, South Carolina, and being here for 21 years, what have you learned about the state of South Carolina?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that I think one of the things that I started doing a number of years ago was the idea that we should start out and look for the good. That's the thing that I've always tried to tell people.
Okay.
In South Carolina, we have an awful lot of wonderful, incredible, accomplished people. If you're outside of your area, or you're outside of your church community or your faith community or university, you don't hear about them.
Right.
And so there are an awful lot of really wonderful places to go and people to see that what I call embody the spirit of a beloved community. And that's what I want to show them. There are people that are doing things for others, to assist others, to make it better for everyone.
Yes.
And that's what I try to show. So what have I learned? I've learned that there's more good than bad.
Yes.
I know that there's a lot of horrible craziness in the world. I'm not immune to looking and hearing about that. But I think it's important for us as adults to figure out what is good, what can we learn, what isn't so good, but how have people, cities, towns, communities, organizations adjusted?
Yes.
We were able to do things
Yes.
that you can't do other places. And so it brings people who are engineers and teachers and different, all different types of bankers and people that from architectural firms and people from nonprofits. They don't get the opportunity to meet
Right.
all different people. And so that's some of the stuff that I've learned, that it's the mix that's important, and it's the why
Yes.
that's important.
Yes.
More than anything. So like when we go to Greenwood, we'd go to Greenwood, and I had a number of people at the very beginning, and you get this from time to time. I don't know why we're going there. There's nothing
There's
there I want to
nothing
look.
there.
There's nothing there I want to look at. And I'm not going there. I
Yeah.
went, that's fine. I said, if you don't want to go, that's too bad for you.
Right.
And so when we get there, it's important because so many people say, have you ever been to Greenwood? No. What's in Greenwood? Well, and you look
You
at
gotta
Greenwood.
go.
Well, the thing is about Greenwood is it is an incredible community because it is a community that has grown up caring for each other. And that was one of the things that we did our social issues this year. And they go and look at the Benjamin Mays site, who, so important in our history.
Yes.
And do 90% of the people from South Carolina even know who that is,
Right.
and why he's important,
He's an
and
alum
what
of NC
he's
State.
doing, and what he did,
Right.
and why he did it,
Yes.
and how incredible it was that he even got a diploma of any kind.
Right.
I mean, those are some of the things that people don't know. So that's the why. And then why are we there? Well, we're there because we also have a genetics center that is world renowned to look at incredible genetic diseases. That's one of the reasons why South Carolina has an incredible process where every new baby is tested for a number of genetic diseases immediately.
Oh, wow.
That's why they prick their little heel when they were born on the first or second day.
Yeah.
And so that's one of those things that South Carolina is on the forefront. And that is in Greenwood. And the self-hospital, self-regional health care is an incredible community just helper.
Yeah.
They started different things for just to get that community healthy, like 4Ks and exercise classes and food and nutrition.
Why do you think leadership programs like Leadership South Carolina, because there's several, you know.
Oh yeah, there are all kinds of stuff.
Why is it important for an aspiring leader or one who's in the trenches, you know, leading an organization or a business? How do these programs help?
Well, you know, it's interesting. I think I read like there are 82,000 books written every year on leadership. I think it's because leadership in and of itself is a term that a lot of people like to throw around. To me, leadership is a lot like cooking. You can read cookbooks all day. You can watch those, oh man, you can watch HGTV, you can watch all these incredible chefs, but you're not a cook.
Right.
And you're not a chef. Just because you watch something
It would lead you
on
to
the TV.
believe that you can do that.
And you know, you can look at the pictures and read the books and
Yes.
everything else, but until you are cooking, you are not a cook or even a chef. Same thing with leadership. So what I would say is there are a lot of great leadership programs out there, but find the one that excites you personally and look at it and say, does it do something? Is it just a time for reflection and talking about something hypothetically? And I'm not saying that's bad, because that is what some people like to do, and maybe that's what they need to do at that point. But others need to be doing something. And that's why with Leadership South Carolina, one of the things that I helped to institute was a class project, an annual class project.
Yeah, absolutely.
And some of them have been incredibly successful. And somebody asked me a while back, well, how many failures have you had? How many class projects? And I said, none. And they said, what do you mean? I said, you don't understand. A class project is a project so that the entire class can get involved together. They can learn more about each other, but they can also help the community. We need to all be servant leaders.
Yes.
It's about putting your ego away. It's about saying, I am not the biggest dog in the room.
Is that difficult? Because you do have a lot of leaders that they just have that personality. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, well, you know, that's one of those occupational hazards. You know, I think the two biggest things to do when you have somebody that likes to hear themselves talk a lot of times the class will take care of itself.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, that's one of the things. The other thing is that the first thing is I don't give out a class directory to anybody until the first day of class.
Okay.
I get so many, I want to know who's in the class. No, we're not getting it. Oh, why not? It's not, you're not getting it. I don't care. I mean, if you're the Pope, I'm not even going to give you, I'm not slipping it under the door for you, buddy. Because there's a reason for that. And the reason is because if people come in with an expectation of, I know that person,
I don't want to work.
I don't need to know that person. that,
Wow.
well, that person's a so-and-so. Really need to go meet up with them. They can really help me out, yakety
Right.
yak. Or that person's this, or that person's that, or who is that person? How'd they get in? Well, you don't want that. And the reason you don't want that is because if you come in at least somewhat level playing field and you have a seating chart, you tell them where to sit, they're going to be able to talk to somebody new. Everybody has a voice that needs to be heard.
Absolutely.
I don't care how timid and shy you are. You have two things when you come to Leadership South Carolina. You got a belly button and an opinion. and a lot of times we need to hear the opinions of the people who aren't always as vocal, because those are they're very valuable.
Yes.
So that's one of the reasons why we don't give out the directory until you get to class. We want everybody to see that, yeah, you might be all that in your organization, and you probably are, but take a deep breath and take a step back.
Yeah.
People need to be heard. Their opinion and what they are about is just as valid as someone who is a big deal.
Right.
In
Right.
fact, I would probably say that the person who probably thinks of themselves as not a big deal are better at doing an awful lot of good work.
Yes.
And that's, to me, that's why. When we see somebody who's got a, yakety yak, I can kind of tell. I don't need to get involved when I see somebody else in the class like rolling their eyes or shifting in their chair or something like that, and it can be very subtle. But the class will generally solve it themselves.
Okay.
If they don't, well,
Helen will step in.
I actually will pull someone aside.
Absolutely.
Say, I'll pull them aside like, hey, I wasn't a mom of 4 kids for nothing. Pull them aside and say, listen, I need to tell you something, just a tiny thing. He goes, what's that? Well, you need to let somebody else talk. It's not that you don't have something to say.
Right.
But maybe let somebody else in first.
Yes.
And then say it second.
So let for the person who decides that they want to be in a leadership program,
Yeah.
but maybe they're not as confident, in themselves, but they have a desire to be a leader. How do they pull that out of themselves? What do they need to do?
Well, that's the thing. I think one of the questions you asked me was how, when you have people that go through, what are the characteristics of people that continue to be successful? So I would turn that back and I would say the same things that make you successful in just doing your job, being a parent, working in your church community or your, whatever it is, whatever organization, or even just by yourself.
Right.
It's an idea that you have value. That's the first thing. And it isn't just self-worth. It's the idea that there's something in you that wants to do more. And that's the element that you need to see, they need to bring out.
Okay.
What is it that when you think about it, evokes something in your heart space? What is that? What is that? And what is that element? Is it taking care of others? Is it taking care of animals? Is it something that has to do with the environment or the ecology? Is it something about reading? Is it something about education? It doesn't matter what that it is.
Yes.
It's that it excites you here so that you can step out of yourself and do something. Again, it's the act of doing. You like I said, you can have a lot of people doing a lot of things and thinking about a lot of stuff,
Yes.
and it doesn't do nothing.
Yes.
Yeah, except probably some people get a headache. But it's the idea that you put something in action, and it's only when it's an activity
Yeah.
that you see progress. And the other thing is that you asked me was, so one of the things that I've learned a long, long time ago, and I don't even know if it was in something that I learned at school or who, I don't know. But somewhere along the line, I learned this. And that is, there must be conflict. And I'm talking about true conflict. You have to go through some type of a conflict of some sort in order to have true growth. And so that means that, yes, you may have that little dialogue with yourself. I'm not worthy, I don't know anything. So-and-so sits beside me in class, gets much better marks, and so-and-so.
Yeah.
I can't even remember, how to do some of my trigonometry, like what is y, I don't know. Somebody's going to make fun of me. I don't read so good. I'm not a good speaker. I don't have a lot of money. Those are the things that you go inside yourself and you talk yourself out of.
Yes.
But if you can get out of that, and again, that is even a type of conflict. If you can get through with that type of conflict, then you're going to be able to do something. You'll be able to be better at no matter what it is you do and be a leader.
21 years.
Yeah, a lot of people.
A lot of people.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite story of?
Can we be drinking?
You don't have to use names. It can be anonymous.
Okay.
You have a favorite story?
I do have a couple of them, but they're just like little small ones. One of the ones that I like to tell is had a really incredible, very, very accomplished man go through, and he got in. He said he finally had time. He wanted to go through yakety yak, and he's a little hesitant. I don't know. And I said, listen. The thing about Leadership South Carolina is, and you'll need to know this, is that unlike a lot of the other groups, our average age is probably about 45 or even closer to 50. So we have a tendency to go a little bit on the older side.
Okay.
So this guy was, probably right in the middle of that age group. And we had the first break, and he comes out and said, Helen, I never had any idea any of this was going on. And I said, well, this is only the first break. We haven't even had lunch yet. Just wait a little bit. And to me, that was just so, it was just so funny.
Yeah.
Because, this guy, like the day before, was up in front of his 20-member board with a really, probably very expensive suit on, and telling them things that they needed to know. But here he is running out, Helen, like he was a 10-year-old.
So excited, yes.
And I thought, okay, all right, well, look, just calm down. But that to me is good. Another story that I shall not name the person,
Yes.
but it's really funny. We had one of the first times we'd gone over to Greenwood.
Okay.
Went over to Greenwood, the first time this person ever been over to Greenwood. And this was when, some people had garments, some people didn't, we had to figure that out. And she got lost. Let's just say she said she'd been on a conference call. She wasn't
paying attention.
Wasn't paying attention. I don't know where I am. So she pulls into a convenience store.
Okay.
And so she thinks, well, should be able to tell her how to get to the technical college school, because that's where she's going to go. And I said, okay. So she pulls in, jumps out of her car, goes up and asks this person, and they don't know English so well. So she's trying to communicate,
Yeah.
and a police officer comes in.
Okay.
And he hears her, and so he says, well, where are you trying to go? And so she tells him, and he goes, looks at his watch, and says, well, I'm going to be taking a lunch break soon, and it's right beside where I want to go. I'll escort you over there. Well, I'm late, so can you take a fast road? He put the darn lights on. So when she gets into the place later on, I said, well, so how are you liking Greenwich? Because I love it. Does everybody get a police escort? And I went,
I love that.
No, they don't.
No.
but you know, those are some of the things that we learn on the way, is that people want to help somebody out. They do.
Love that.
And so, but she said, and y'all didn't get a police escort like that?
No.
That was kind of fun. So, you know, there are things that happen that just happen, and they're fun. And, you know, we want everybody to have an enjoyable time, but we also want them to impress upon them. It's real important for them to get to know everyone in the class.
Yes.
So, you know, we have seating assignments, and I am good about that, because I really think that's how you break down barriers faster than anything. Because if I am your friend, I am not going to look at somebody else who may somehow looks like you, doesn't look like me. I will hesitate.
That's true.
And say, even if it's just a hesitation, we have won. We have done something good. I grew up, and I'm ashamed to say, in 1970, I was in that was the class for forced busing in South Carolina, forced desegregation. And so I went to, at the time it was Han Junior High School. Yes, I know, I'm old. I'm sorry about
downtown?
that. Downtown. It used to be Han Junior High School. Now it's Han Middle School.
Yeah.
We had race riots.
Oh,
I was a
wow.
7th grader. We had race riots.
Wow.
I didn't know what it was. I came from a Catholic school where you had 30 people and you knew everybody and wore a uniform. And you know, when the nun called you, you stood up and said, "Yes, sister." I mean, then I went to a public school. I had seen all these people. Oh my goodness, I didn't know that many kids existed. Isn't that funny? But you know, when you're in 7th grade, ooh, everything's big.
Yes.
And then we had these people that were beating each other up, and I couldn't figure it out.
Oh, wow.
Well, within the first couple of months, a lot of my class members were gone. Parents said, we're not taking any of that. So they would move them out of that entire district. They went to private school. In a way, you can't blame them. But as I have progressed all the way through, it was largely the influence of the parents that didn't let the kids assimilate themselves.
Right.
And I wish they had.
And children will usually do that.
Oh yeah. So, but it's interesting that as I progressed all the way through till our senior years, we had 2 homecoming queens. Like, what was that about? That's silly.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, all those kind of things they thought they had to have, you know, separate but equal. What it was, and it was never equal. It was always crazy. But again, you know, I carried that with me, thinking there's got to be a better way.
Love that.
So, do we head on talk about race relations and stuff like that in Leadership South Carolina? No, we don't do that. And let me tell you why. The why is important. The why is important because we should have gone beyond that. We should have gone beyond that conversation by now.
Right.
If you haven't, jump on the train, buddy. Everybody else has left that station.
Right.
Now what we need to do is we need to look at each other as individuals and say individually, yes, you're my neighbor. Yes, you're my desk mate. You know, you are the person who does something wonderful that I can call on you and depend on you when I need to have somebody to help me.
Right.
And vice versa. So that's one of the things that I really hope that we've been able to do. Although I did have Lewis. He gave one of the most impactful presentations on South Carolina racism. And the reason it was so impactful was the fact of what he did. He talked about, in fact, years before, he talked about his life.
Yes.
And one of the things was from middle school and his group of about 12 friends, and how they progressed and when they graduated from high school and 2 years later, and how many of them were still alive, how many had already passed away from some type of violence, and how many had actually made it through and are still living and doing something productive. So those are some of the things that, you know, we have to look at as South Carolinians and say, we have to do better.
Right.
We need to do better.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
let's move the conversation. It doesn't mean we can't have a conversation, but it means that we should look forward and not backward. Just like somebody asked me, why don't we go to the corridor of shame every year? I'm going,
it shouldn't be that.
Because I said, well, for one thing, when we continued to go, more and more, the class got more and more sad, and you could tell when they got through, it was just so almost debilitating, and the conversations got really sad. I'm going, we need to show what's best. We can talk about what's worse, but we need to move forward to show what's best and how we can do better by emulating the better. We can look at the bad, and we can look at it and examine it, but we have to move forward.
Show the possibility of
move forward.
I love that. I love that you're really intentional about Leadership South Carolina, that you're very thoughtful in your approach, and how you make sure that leaders of South Carolina sees everything. And like you said, that you understand the why, because hopefully that would motivate the individual to, like you said, find that place in their heart space and try to make a difference in the area that caused them to, to be themselves.
And you asked me, name some people who are successful. Well, I would tell you that the successful people that you can see the name and understand, know them and recognize them, they're very successful. I'm not going to take anything away from them.
Right.
But I think about the person who, on their employer said, I really need you to step up. I really need you to do this, and they took a chance.
Yes.
And then you realize that that person grew up in unbelievable circumstances. And it's no wonder they're hesitant. It's no wonder they were homeless, or they grew up with being food insecure, or they grew up and it was only by the grace that a grandparent or a great aunt took them in from a bad situation. And so they had more obstacles to get to that place.
Right.
And to me, that's success.
Yeah.
It's not one you're going to hear from the mountaintops. It's not one you're going to hear from even somebody else who points it out, because that would embarrass them. But it's something that I think that the individual who does go through Leadership South Carolina and makes friends and makes connections, that they understand that everybody has a place, and everybody has a value. That's it.
You're retiring, Helen.
Yeah, I am. I hope. Well,
what are you
going
to do?
Well, I'll find something to do.
I'm sure you will.
Somebody told me, because Helen, you're not the kind that's going to go and just, learn to knit. I said, I don't think so. I do know how to do a little bit of needlepoint and stuff like that.
Okay.
No. I have too much energy. And besides that, I would drive myself crazy. I wouldn't just drive my sweet husband crazy. I would drive myself crazy. So I'll do something.
My final question for you, what's your hope for Leadership South Carolina?
That it continues for another 45 years. One of the things that I really wanted when I got the job, if I had known it was in such dire straits, I probably would not have accepted the job. But I think that I was hired because they needed to find a new mechanism, and for financing. How do you do this? What do you do? How do you make it continue? Because it had always gotten some type of a state appropriation and that kind of stuff, because they were at the University of South Carolina. And so my task was to say, okay, what do we need to do and how do we need to make it work? And so we've been able to do that quite successfully by relying on servant leaders who understand what the state is about and where it's going and how people collaboratively can move forward. I'm really hoping, and I'm very optimistic, that the next 45 years that it'll continue.
Yes.
Because as long as there are thousands and thousands of books being written every year on leadership,
Yes.
there is always a need for a program like ours.
Yeah, absolutely. And so tell our viewers how they can help Leadership South Carolina. What ways can they
Well, the
help?
first thing they can do is, if they're interested, to go online and look at our website, and it's a very easy website because it's leadershipsc.com. So go on there and explore our website and see if you're interested. And if you are interested and you want to go ahead and apply, go ahead and apply. We take applications all year round. The deadline, I think, is May the 1st or May the 10th, something like that, in the beginning of May. But we also know that based on experience, early applicants are more motivated, and so they are considered first. So if they are interested, I know it's just March, but still, this is the time to do that. If you are own a company or in some organization where you have people that you want to look at as to become more community leaders and understand more about the state and understand more about how their organization fits into the state, which is real important, go on, nominate your person, and then have them apply, because that's how it works. And especially the people who are in rural areas of South Carolina, we're always looking for people who are interested in coming through, and we do have some scholarships available. And because we know that everybody doesn't live in the band of major metropolitan areas. We know that, and we don't want that anyway. We want to make sure that everybody from the top to the bottom and anywhere in between has an opportunity, and that if you are like near retirement age, and we love people like that. Somebody asked me, well, what about retired people? And I went, wait a second, time out. What do you want? You want somebody, when they're finished, if they have time, talent, and treasure. Well, I don't know about you, but somebody who's getting ready to retire obviously has some time. They're going to have talent, and they're going to have something coming in. It doesn't matter. That's somebody we want.
And they can still be a leader in the community.
And they want to give back. We are there for them. So anyway, there you go.
Awesome. Well, Helen, thank you so much for taking time. I know you're busy. And we greatly appreciate you taking the time out to appear on Elevate Leadership Podcast. And I want to thank you for your commitment and dedication to Leadership South Carolina, the time that you invest. And I hope that during your retirement, you will take some time and reflect on how you have made a difference to the leaders in South Carolina that have gone through this program, because there's certainly a piece of us there's certainly a piece of you in us. And so I want to say thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And I think I get more out of it than they do a lot of times, but thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. And we want to thank you, our viewers of Elevate Leadership Podcast, again produced by South Carolina State University Public Service and Agriculture, for watching our show. Definitely hope you enjoyed our guest today, Helen Munnerlyn. who is the Executive Director for Leadership South Carolina. And as she said, look inside your heart space to identify those concerns and needs that pull at your heart, and that is where you'll find your leadership skills. So be sure to tune in next month for another episode of Elevate Leadership Podcast. And you can always find us online on all of our socials at SC State 1890. Until next time. Thank you for watching today's show of Elevate Leadership Podcast. You can catch us all the time on any of our streaming platforms at SC State 1890.